This is the Asus Zephyrus Duo, a truly innovative laptop that's legitimately changed my thoughts about using a laptop as my main machine. But as with all first-gen devices, it's got some early adopter teething issues. But is it worth getting one anyway? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in this video, so stick around. Of course, first, if you haven't already, consider subscribing for more videos like this one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. The glaringly obvious talking point we have to start with is literally in its name, Duo. And no, not in the mythical and impractical Razer Project Valerie kind of way. No, this works, this is legit, and it's incredibly useful. Up top, we have a stunning 4K 60Hz display that covers 100% of the Adobe RGB color space. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's also, like I said, 4K 60Hz and is fairly standard, also remarkably bright. Then below that, but above the keyboard, is what Asus calls the screen pad. It's a 3840 by 1100 display that tilts up at a 13-degree angle and opens up and lifts itself up when you lift up the main display with an incredibly beautiful hinge design. The screen pad is pretty intuitive. It's both a touchscreen and stylus supported, and of course is just a standard display, so you can use it in a number of different ways. The first way is just using it as a normal display. You can drag windows down and use the standard Windows snap to fill half the screen and half the other, or you can use one of the Asus included software tools to either drag a window anywhere on the screen to pin it to the whole display, or you can even drag windows to corners of the display or the top area to split it into thirds or into 2/3 and single thirds if you like. Having a second display on a laptop, even a smallish one like this, is game changing. If you're a gamer, then having Discord and your system stats up on the bottom screen while gaming on the top is a really nice thing to have. Maybe you also want to stream, and so you can have Discord and OBS or Streamlabs OBS or XSplit, whatever you want, open on the bottom screen so you can see what you're doing, see who you're chatting to, and even see your Twitch chat if you really wanted, as well as playing your game on the main screen. That's possible. If you're a creator, you want to edit videos, then this is an incredible configuration. This is the best size for a timeline in something like Premiere, so having your source and footage monitors, your footage bins, and then your timeline just on the whole bottom display is so much more useful. Now, it is still a little clunky to use. The main screen sadly isn't a touchscreen, which I feel is quite a missed opportunity, as the number of times I was, dragging stuff around on the screen pad and then went to drag something from the main screen down to the screen pad is more than zero, and it means that you're forced to use the incredibly small touchpad, which admittedly is pretty easy to get used to, but is a little more on the awkward side, especially if you do want to drag windows from the main screen down onto the screen pad. The second display is also a lot dimmer than the main screen. It's a bit less vibrant, and because it's also a sort of stylus type display, it's got a sort of almost hazy film over it, which isn't the best. And while I can understand why that's there, it'd be nice to see a little bit more refinement. Now, as for the rest of the machine, well, it fits pretty well with what they're going for here. The spec that I have is the 10980HK, which is an insane 8-core CPU. You also have an RTX 2080 Super Max Q in here, and you have 32 gigs of RAM and 2 terabytes of NVMe storage, which I should note are two 1 terabyte SSDs in RAID 0, so there is slight potential for some data loss there, so keep that in mind and keep anything that you have on this backed up elsewhere. Now, yes, that monster of a CPU, even with the extra ventilation coming from the top that you can see from the backside of the screen as it lifts up, yes, it does thermal throttle. Especially when you're playing games, it almost immediately thermal throttles. It hits 99 degrees Celsius and then throttles itself down until it reaches a sort of stable point. And yes, it does get incredibly loud in its turbo mode. But the upside is that you get some pretty impressive performance, so let's take a look at some creative and CPU benchmarks, and then take a look at some gaming ones. Now, starting off with Cinebench and the single-threaded results, you can see that the 10980HK, which is still a complete mouthful, sits right between the Ryzen 4800H and the 4900HS, and has a convincing lead over the little brother, the 10875H. In multi-threaded, it's again a very similar spot, although as you can see, the multi-threaded result is light years ahead of the 10875H, which was in a Razer Blade Advanced laptop with probably less cooling potential than this one has. When it comes to Blender and the BMW render, this was almost 30 seconds faster, in fact over 30 seconds faster than the 10875H in that Razer laptop, so very impressive, although Ryzen does still have the lead here. When it comes to gaming results, this thing is no slouch. You're getting 109 FPS average at 1080p on ultra settings with DirectX 12 enabled in Battlefield 5 with a very respectable almost 100 FPS 1% low figure. When it comes to COD Modern Warfare, you're getting 116 FPS average, which again on this 4K 60Hz display is more than enough. You're also getting a 1% low of 89 FPS if you round up, and so again a very good playing experience. When it comes to PUBG, again on ultra settings, you're getting a whopping 142 FPS, which again, especially on this 60Hz display, is more than enough, and you can even run it at 1440p if you want a little extra clarity. In Fortnite on epic settings, with DirectX 12 enabled, you're looking at 118 FPS, which again is very, very impressive with a good 1% low of 75.5 FPS. Using this as a gaming machine, especially this spec, this model, isn't probably the one I would recommend you go with. Asus also sell this with a 300Hz 1080p display that still covers 100% of the sRGB spectrum and is still Pantone verified, but is obviously not quite as nice and vibrant as this 4K 60 one. But that panel will be a lot faster than this one because the white to black response time I measured here was 34 milliseconds. Yeah, that's a lot of ghosting. Seriously, look at the UFO, the trail is massive, and even while playing games, it's really very apparent that this model isn't the one you would want to game on, but I think the 300Hz one, well, that'd be a very nice shout. Also, this model in terms of input lag was absolutely awful. It was around 50 milliseconds, which is only beaten for the slowest laptop I've ever tested award by the MSI Bravo 15. Yeah, that's a low bar, I know, but this one isn't fantastic for that. Interestingly, the 300Hz model has a slightly lower specification, and actually the spec that I would normally recommend for this style of sort of thin and light laptop. It's a 10875H and an RTX 2070 Super Max-Q, still with 32 gigs of RAM, but only with 1TB of storage. And like I said, that sort of configuration, especially for this sort of thin and light chassis, even with the insane amount of cooling, look at how many heat pipes and how massive the heat sinks are, it's insane. But even in this style of chassis, that is the sort of spec I would generally recommend you go and get, and should do plenty fine for actually gaming on it. Of course, if you want the maximum crater performance, especially from the CPU, this 4K model might be your better option. Sadly, both of those models are hardly cheap. The 300Hz one will set you back a cool $3,000, and the 4K one will set you back, well, 4K. But if you're the sort of person who is planning on picking up, say, a Razer Blade 15 Advanced with the RTX 2080 Super and the 300Hz display, well, this might be a good option. And even if you're planning on picking up the 2070 model, the extra £500 that this would cost you, or a 300Hz model would cost you over that Blade, I think is worth it. The extra usability you get is a really nice, really useful added feature. Yes, having a keyboard this far forward is pretty awkward, especially if you're trying to use it on your lap. Having an absolutely tiny trackpad that doubles as a number pad that has no feedback and is incredibly slow to register any inputs is a bit annoying. But like I said, the extra usability you get from having this extra display is a really game-changing experience. It makes it way easier for me as someone who normally has 3 displays and multitasks a lot while using a PC, to be able to consider using this as a more full-time machine. Now, of course, those are my thoughts, but I would love to hear yours in the comments down below. What do you think of the Zephyrus Duo? Would you pick one up, or would you wait for a 2nd gen model, or would you go with something else instead? feel free to let me know in those comments down below. I'm going to leave a link to both of the models that are available in the description down below, so feel free to take a look at those. Those will be Amazon affiliate links that will take you to your local Amazon store. We can see pricing when and where you watch this, because it can and does vary. There's also going to be a whole load of other links in the description you can check out, from Patreon if you want to support the channel and get cool rewards like access to our Money Men Discord and ad-free videos. You can also pick up merch or hoodies or t-shirts like this one, or a load of other cool designs, and there's plenty of other affiliate links down there too for VPN options. There's also Overclockers UK, so a lot to check out. I will leave some more videos over there, maybe the Razer Blade Advanced video if you're interested in checking that one out. But otherwise, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you all in the next video.